across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you on Talk, and let me just tell you what is coming up. Gary, this is especially for you. Phil Dave will be here to go through the newspapers at midnight. So we're getting ready for your texts already on that. Then we are heading off to space with our favourite spaceman, Andy Lound, and we're going to be looking at stars of a different kind with Lottie Hume, senior reporter at The Sun, so looking at some entertainment news. And just before we kick off the programme, just a reminder again that as of Monday, this coming Monday, we are returning to the phone-in. The phone-in will be back. It is back on Monday at midnight. We've got a corker of a topic for you. So we're going to be chatting once more because so many of you complained that the phone-in had gone, and I know we've got just 2 hours, so it takes a bit of a while to find the right balance, but you have spoken, and so you will speak on Monday. So I look forward to chatting with you then. But now let's talk about something really serious in this country, and that is violence against women and girls. We've been hearing about this, and we've been hearing about strategies to combat this rising phenomenon for decades. The violence against women and girls continues to be a significant issue in the UK. And according to an investigation by the BBC, reports of sexual assaults and harassments on trains have risen by more than a third in the last 10 years. A total of 2,661 incidents were registered across England, Scotland and Wales. And of those, 1 in 10 were children, some younger than 13. Now, violence against women and girls continues to make up nearly 20% of all crime. If you just think about that for a moment, of all crime registered in the UK, in England and Wales. At least 1 in 12 women is affected, and domestic abuse affects women disproportionately. Shockingly, a woman is killed by a man every 3 days in the UK. So the question is, has this just become normal? Is this just normally part of everyday life now? I mean, you speak to, I think as women, myself and my female friends, we've just always been aware of our vulnerability, right? There are things that you do that men don't even have to think about. I'm not saying that there isn't violence against men. I know there is. And when we see the numbers of young men, particularly, that are stabbed to death by young men, I get it. But we're talking specifically about violence against women and girls. And women and girls grow up with a sense of vulnerability. There is no question about it. You know, even putting petrol in the car late at night, as a woman, you're looking to your left and to your right, and you're checking out, you know, who's around. I'd never see men having to do that. All sorts of things that we do as women that I think that men just don't even realise, and we don't even realise, perhaps, that that's what we're doing. But is it now just becoming so every day? I mean, recent newspapers, there's been rapes in parks, haven't there? A couple of men raping a woman, another one where a group of men raped one woman, another one where, and we hear about this all the time now, broad daylight, men have just, these rapists, these sexual abusers, these attackers and these killers feel emboldened. No more is it the dark alleyway late at night. It's now broad daylight. So what is feeding this? And is it just becoming part of everyday life in Britain? Well, to discuss this with me is Susan Edwards, who's a barrister, a professor at Northumbria University and a trustee of Advance, that's a national charity supporting women and girls who have experienced domestic abuse. Susan, it's good to see you again. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Good to see you again, Petrie. Good evening.
Good
Hello.
evening. Look, this is. It's always very difficult when you talk about violence against women and girls, because we know there's an enormous amount of violence against men, and I always get messages saying, "Oh, you're forgetting about all the men that are attacked." But this is a very specific thing, isn't it? And it's something that women of our sort of age group. I mean, you're a lot younger than me, I think, probably, but a lot of our sort of age group, we've grown up with it.
Okay, well, Petrie, you talked about normalisation, and I think we've seen a lot of that in the last couple of weeks. We've seen a lot of that in the last couple of days, in fact, and normalisation of harassment, joking, humiliating, intimidating women in various ways, which in fact is part of the BBC report to which you're referring, is part of the problem. We've seen that even in a very serious meeting on Gaza in Sharm el-Sheikh with the US President Donald Trump, who thought it was appropriate to make a joke about Giorgia Meloni, the Italian premier, and referred to her in this very serious meeting as "you are beautiful," and repeated it, and thought it was very funny that a man twice her age should make such a remark when she was the only woman in that summit meeting. And to make it even worse, there was a sort of international boys' club, wasn't there, of Macron, of Erdogan, saying, repeating it, "you are beautiful, but I wish you'd stop smoking." Now, this, of course, many people perhaps listening to that tonight will think it's banter, but where does it go next? How did she feel about that? Was she in a position where she could say anything? Indeed, were the other men in a position where they could have said something? Well, that's that is top down, and that's coming as a message, as a narrative that's been condoned and accepted, and obviously transmitted across the world and heard by people in these positions of power. And of course, we're seeing that continuously, and so this normalization is coming from a culture that's misogynistic, that thinks it's funny and acceptable to make jokes, to make people, women in particular, feel uncomfortable. And of course, we're seeing this now with this kind of, it's seen as banter or laddish culture where there's sexual harassment on trains, which of course results as well in much more serious sexual assaults against women. But there is a normalization. I mean, we're seeing that. And we saw that 2 weeks ago here in London, part of the police culture. Sir Mark Rowley actually came out and said how disgusted, ashamed that he was about his own police force because of the misogyny as well as the racism in Charing Cross that had become a sort of part of the culture.
I mean, that's the thing as well, isn't it? There's a lot of men, potentially some who are listening now, who are going, well, what's wrong with telling a woman she's beautiful? What's wrong with, a wolf whistle? Well, I'm just being appreciative. But it is the message behind that, isn't it? It's the message that women are a thing, that Giorgia Meloni would have welcomed, like you said, that comment from an 80-year-old man who is known for sexual harassment, all of those things. And also, if there's banter in a pub or banter on a train and you're a woman on your own, you don't know where that's going to end up, right? You don't know because if you don't smile, they go, "Oh, you're a miserable cow." If you do smile, they take that as "Oh, right, I'm going to come on to you then." It is very, very difficult for women to know how to respond in order to push that unwanted attention away. And I think that is something that a lot of men do not get when they think, "Oh, it's just a bit of banter."
Absolutely. But, if you want to take it to another level, we can think of the way in which the Sean Combs trial recently has validated particular kinds of behaviour and the way in which the coercive control that was manifested and seen and publicly seen and broadcast of his conduct, dragging her across the floor in the Intercontinental Hotel, and that didn't result in a finding of coercive control. I mean, of course, from a legal point of view, there were legal issues in connection with that. But his behaviour, quite apart from that, and as we know, he was convicted of transporting for the purposes of prostitution, and has got, in my view, a very derisory sentence for that. But that apart, his defense team talked about a swingers lifestyle.
Yeah.
His sexual conduct and coercion of her in what were called, in brackets, freak-offs, which were coercive and assaulting and humiliating behaviour that was actually perpetrated against her trapped in that relationship. And that was acknowledged, that was accepted, that was the situation. But again, that is sending out another message. It's condoning, it's normalizing the point that you made about the normalization is happening top down, at every level, in every sense, in everywhere where we look to women. That sexual assault can be rewritten through the male vocabulary as something that is something that either she asked for or that is normal. And that's what, in fact, as I say, his defence team said about his behaviour, that it was just a different kind of sexual lifestyle, different way of living, different kind. Oh, and that he was perhaps a flawed individual.
I mean, yeah. I'm just also thinking, Susan, about, aside from that sort of normalisation and the kickback that women get from men, like I say, oh, you're a miserable cow if you don't smile back or encourage any sort of behaviour, or if somebody offers you a drink and you say no thank you and then they get aggressive to you, right, and you're trying to figure out the best way of avoiding any sort of aggression. But it seems to have stepped beyond that recently, and I don't know whether it's because I'm always very looking at, is it just because this is being reported more, or is this, but these daytime attacks, these we used to fear the dark. Okay, that was always the thing, wasn't it? When you were out with your girlfriends at night, you'd always make sure each other got home okay. And we would fear the dark. We now fear the light, because a lot of these attacks that are happening now are happening in broad daylight, in public spaces, on trains where women are being literally sexually abused in front of other people. Where do we go from here?
Well, the problem, I think, is also facilitated by discourses in the media and by a kind of celebration of thuggish male culture. That's not to say a lot of men listening tonight will say, no, that's nonsense, and we treat women with courtesy and decency.
And most do. Most do.
Of course, most do. But, there are a number of men who are celebrating thuggishness. And, of course, the media is not helping. The internet is not helping. And there are various influences, and we know who they are, that, in fact, are hailed by many men as men and behaviour to emulate. I mean, not just only in terms of behaviour towards women, but behaviour towards anybody, a kind of right, a proprietorial right to behave in a thuggish and brutish way, to sort of stand their ground as if this is a measure of masculinity.
But how do we change that? I mean, like I said, for years and years and years, decades, I've been hearing about a new strategy of violence against women and girls. I know you have as well. We all hear about it. Oh, yes, we're gonna halve it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Nothing ever really comes of it. Money is left unspent because nobody knows what to do with it. They don't know how to stop this. And look, there were people going, yeah, but this rise in this is because of immigrants. It's the immigrants that we're bringing in. And there is another issue with that, in that the newspapers, of course, are reporting those, and rightly so. But that is not the majority of cases. The majority of these attacks and sexual assaults are not perpetrated by immigrants in this country. But a lot of people will see that as being the reason we're seeing a rise.
Well, I think that's a good point that you've made. I'm very, very, very concerned indeed about the way in which that kind of narrative. So there have been a couple of cases where immigrants have been accused and convicted of sexual offences. We had one last week. The particular man was sentenced to 12 months. But the reality is, and I can tell you over many years and decades of looking at statistics, that the majority of men that actually commit sexual offences are not migrants, are actually white men in this country. And I think part of that narrative is very dangerous. The narrative that is focusing on immigrants' behavior, whether it's criminal, whether it's focusing on criminal behavior or sexual offences, is very dangerous because it detracts attention, it detracts resources away from the men that we really want to focus on. And actually the majority of offences, sexual offences, are actually committed by men who know women, who live with women in the domestic violence context. And we've known that for a very long time. However, I mean, you know, you opened up with the BBC study. And what's interesting about that, of course, is that we are seeing, and 71% actually recently, in terms of the sexual harassment statistics, are committed by strangers. So in fact, the harassment, this harassment that we're talking about, is committed more likely by strangers, but sexual assault and sexual offences and domestic abuse is actually committed by men who live or have lived with women. So we need to put the resources there. And if we look at the resources, what's very significant is the problem with the criminal justice system, that we have a system. You say, what can we do? Well, obviously, we need to educate men. We need to educate boys. But at the same time, we need to be able to have a properly funded system, criminal justice system, that can ensure that those who are accused of sexual assault and domestic violence are properly prosecuted, and that victims don't have to wait. And now we're waiting up to 4 years in some cases for rape cases. What happens is that those women drop out of the process. They want to get on with their lives. The trauma is too great to wait 4 years in some cases for those cases to be heard. So it's not just education, it's also about doing something to put in proper funding, to have a proper funded criminal justice process that can actually deal with prosecuting these men. Predominantly they are white men and Indigenous men.
The other thing about these men is that you know, I do phone-ins a lot. I speak to a lot of very different people from very different parts of the country. So I'm not in a Westminster bubble. I'm not in a London bubble. But a lot of these men will say, look, you know, a lot of men don't know who they are anymore. You know, they feel emasculated by women progressing in society. They you know, they feel left behind, particularly the white working class male feels like they're left behind, and that maybe this is a reaction to that it is a societal problem as opposed to just a male problem. So in other words, you know, they feel emasculated at work, or they feel emasculated maybe even at home, so they try to act out that masculinity with strangers in public. I'm talking about the sort of harassment rather than the sexual assault offences.
Well, I mean, obviously I agree with you that there are issues relating to male behaviour in terms of austerity, lack of job opportunities, lack of public services in particular areas. I'm not decrying that, but I can't see the link. I don't see why it should provide an excuse for men then to say, look, my life is terrible. I don't have a job. My prospects are not good. I'm feeling frustrated with my lack of progress in my life. Then to actually make the excuse that therefore going out and harassing women on the street or committing crimes of domestic abuse of various kinds within the home is a justifiable excuse. It's not an excuse, and I don't think it's a reason for why men are behaving in this way.
Yeah, but a lot of people will say, but that is at the root of this. That, you know, that the rise of the Andrew Tates, the rise of the incels, that it's all the woman's fault, right? It's women's fault that men are failing. If women didn't work, if women just said yes to sex, then there wouldn't be a problem. I mean, that is what young men particularly are being taught at the moment.
Petrie, of course I agree, and I'm worried about the rise of people like men like Andrew Tate and the influence that men like Andrew Tate have. But women have always, throughout history, been sexually abused, violated by men within the home, outside the home, and that was when women's position was nil. They were not. Would only be permitted to work in the factory under dreadful conditions. They were not emancipated. They didn't have their own rights to property. They couldn't vote. I mean, even in all the last century, I'm talking about, there was always domestic abuse, and there was always rape. So I don't think the argument that women's emancipation is the answer to necessarily to the rise in domestic abuse and in sexual harassment.
Just a couple of messages that have come through. Rachel saying talking about the Pakistani rape gangs again, look at, and they were very specific cases, and there's no denying that there was a cultural or racial similarity in those gangs. But do you think that that they are anomalies, or they're particularly unhelpful when we're talking about generalised violence against women, or do you think that does speak to something else that has shifted culturally?
Well, I would say that those were anomalies. I mean, I could also name various gangs that were white gangs. In some of the research that I've done, particularly in the areas of prostitution, and I'm thinking of the Telford inquiry as well, various inquiries.
And Oxford as well.
We're talking about. So, I mean, those are anomalies, but of course the press and the media latch on to these kind of stories, and it seems that there's a hunger and a thirst, and particularly more so at the moment, for having derogatory and Islamophobic, which they are, attempts to project those kind of ideologies or ideas about particular groups, when it really is an anomaly. I mean, if you look at the statistics, and who looked at the statistics on issues around rape and sexual assault, as I've said, we're looking largely at men that are white men, and they're not Pakistani men. But this is to do with the media that sort of whips up a kind of moral panic and a fear about particular men in our community. And then, of course, that does lead to violence and revenge against particular communities. And that's a big concern.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you look at the statistics of individual paedophiles, overwhelmingly they are white men in this country, and generally quite young as well. So it's there, the facts are there. Another point here, Lorena said, when people like Susan uses excuses of Trump making a compliment towards Maloney as humiliating and sexual, it demeans actual sexual assault. And then she accused that of being a woke statement. How do you respond to that?
Well, I get, I mean, I also, of course, I get the point that if we are to focus on those kind of examples alone, they do detract attention away from the really serious assaults that women face. But I think what I was trying to put over there, if you could tell Rachel or whoever phoned in, that the point is, if we at that level of government and world politics, at a meeting that was discussing the situation in Gaza, felt that that was appropriate, then that becomes the touchstone for where else we go. And so to make it clear to Rachel, much of my work actually is on serious rape and serious domestic violence, but it's the stereotypes. This is where they start, with apparently little innocuous comments that are made. And this provides legitimacy for the more serious assaults that actually escalate, or the behavior that escalates up to the more serious assaults, which we've seen in the Combs case, and we've seen, of course, in cases in this country, not just the Combs case, but that's very much in the public mind at the moment. The way in which that was in part normalised and trivialised, and we didn't see a conviction for coercive control, which was brutal if we saw that. So I take the point that she's made, but you've got to look at context always and listen to people when they speak in context, and not to take anything out of the context of the whole of the interview or our discussion that we're having now.
Listen, for what it's worth, I entirely agreed with you, and I think those innocuous, supposedly, oh, I'm just flattering her comments are not, they are not helpful at all. It's been absolutely brilliant talking to you again, Susan. Thank you so much. Really good. Susan Edwards there, barrister, professor at Northumbria University and trustee of Advance, a national charity supporting women and girls who have experienced domestic abuse. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I kind of wish we had the phone in tonight, because there's been a lot of you contacting me about that interview with Susan Edwards, and I'm just going to read some of your messages now. Yeah, don't forget, on Monday we're back to a phone in. So, but I love this. I love you messaging in lieu of that at the moment. Nigel says violence of women on women is okay by the government and public bodies. This country is not safe for women as a result of those in charge. We used to grow up feral and safe and had a good experience growing up. That doesn't happen anymore. The days of innocence are gone unless you are lucky, and it's not good enough. And I do think, actually, Nigel, that there is an equation between young people, particularly boys, and it is particularly boys, although girls do play these games as well, but particularly boys do play those shoot 'em up games. And there was one that is about driving cars, I think, and one of them was you had to thump a prostitute, or you had to beat up a prostitute to get a few more points. So it's things like that in games that you just tend to think, well, that is going to make young men think less about women. If in games they're just punching and getting extra points for punching a woman, then I kind of think, well, young brains are very susceptible. If that isn't being balanced out by good parenting, that is a lesson that those young boys are learning, a particular disregard and disrespect for women and girls in that regard. And Gary said, violence against women and girls is one of the most widespread, persistent and devastating human rights violations in our world today. It is not inevitable, but a preventable crisis rooted in gender inequality. It cuts across all societies, leaving a trail of physical, sexual and psychological devastation. We must collectively reject the normalisation of such abuse, hold perpetrators to accountable, and create a world where every woman and girl can live in safety, dignity and freedom. Men have a place in calling it out and eradicating it. Gary, that is brilliant. That is so well put together. Thank you. And that is the truth of it. If you are out with your male friends and they're going, whoa, look at her, look at, you know, or whatever, but behaving in that way, just go, listen, mate, is that, you know, is that acceptable? Or, cool, she's a dog. Or whatever it is, whatever language they're using to describe women around. Oh, it's just a bit of banter, mate. That's where it starts. It's good to just go, listen, mate, I don't find that funny. But, you know, you crack on. But I don't find that amusing. I'm not saying fall out with your friends over it, but just be a little bit aware, perhaps, of each other. Check in on each other's behaviour. And women will thank you for it, I promise you. And they'll even fancy you for it. Just saying. Quick break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie and Rachel. I think actually Rachel, what happened there is Susan actually was responding to Lorraine's message. And kept saying the name Rachel. So she wasn't responding to your comment about the Pakistani rape gangs, which I did address with her. But she said, your guest comments are dismissive and offensive towards those victims of rape gangs. Would love to hear her discuss this with Maggie Oliver. Absolutely outrageous. This is a barrister who works with victims of very serious sexual assaults and rapes. And what she was saying, and I get it, is that when you have a woman in a meeting with a load of men, and I've been that woman, not as highfalutin as that meeting, obviously, but and all they do is talk about how beautiful you are. It's kind of a put down, and it's putting a woman in her place as a thing. As opposed to just going, oh, you know, they could have said that off camera, right? It didn't have to be in the meeting. But in the meeting and everybody else pitching in and going, yeah, you are beautiful. It's just kind of thinging her, making her an object. So if she had been ugly, would they have said, by the way, you're an ugly woman? It's just, I don't know. I'm with Susan on that normalisation of picking that out. She wasn't saying that is the worst thing that's ever happened, but what she's saying is that when you see that normalisation of treating, you know, a very respected premier of a country who is there as a legitimate equal to all of those men that were there, I see it as patronising and singling her out. and so I agree. And I think that that's what the point she was making. She's not saying that that's as bad as rape, because that would be ridiculous. And like I said, she's a barrister, a lawyer that has worked with far too many women that have been sexually assaulted and raped. So she, trust me, knows the difference. It was just the point that she was making, that if we see that start getting normalised from the very top. And don't forget that Donald Trump was also caught on a hot mic moment talking about grabbing a woman's, I don't need to finish that sentence, and he said that was just banter. That's what she's talking about. And then he goes on to be an adjudicated rapist. So, you know, it is, I take her point. I take her point, or sexual assault. Okay, let's move on. Let's now talk about things, all things to do with show business. Lottie Hume joins me now, senior reporter at The Sun. Lottie, it's lovely to see you.
Petrie, lovely to see you. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing? Because you're
well.
on to baby number 2.
I am. I was just saying to Gabriella, 6 weeks to go now, so we're nearly there. We're nearly there.
Oh, well, good luck. Good luck.
Thank you. I'll need it.
Yeah. Especially when you've got a little one. How old's your little one?
She's 2 next week, so I've got my hands full.
Oh,
so yeah, busy times.
Yeah, very busy. Lottie, let's address this, because I couldn't believe this, that it's already a year since Liam Payne died. I remember I was on air when the news came through, and we had to go with the breaking story. I can't believe that was a year ago.
It's been a year, I know, and I think you had Josh with you at the time, and I was actually leading the night shift at The Sun for the showbiz team, and we were just about to clock off. And I remember getting the phone call, and it was unbelievable news, and we couldn't really believe it. And it's surreal that it's been a year. But my colleague Jack Hardwick's actually written a story to say that, you know, £250,000 has now been raised in memory of the singer to help children with cancer. So his family actually asked for donations at his funeral in November last year. We revealed this week that, you know, they're funding a unit combining pioneering research, cutting edge treatments and expert care at London's Great Ormond Street Hospital. So a source has told The Sun that the family actually asked for donations in memory of Liam on his order of service at the funeral. Of course, he died at the age of 31 in a fall from a balcony in Buenos Aires, again, as we said, this time last year. And the Gosh Just Giving page currently stands at around 34,000, but it's overall known that 250,000 has been donated. So a source has told us that the majority of donations were done in private. And the fundraiser of Gosh told The Sun, we're so touched by the generosity shown towards Gosh and Liam's memory. But he himself, you know, he donated £10,000 in a single night to Just Giving pages for sick children. We know this, that he, you know, was very generous with his money in that respect. And in 2022, he said he just wanted to be remembered as being a nice guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just really obviously something positive has come out of something incredibly sad and negative. Yeah, cannot believe it's been a year. It's really sad.
It's really sad, and we've just seen his funeral, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, and his funeral feels again like it was really recent.
Yeah.
But you know, he was such a big name in music, and I think, yeah, it's going to be a really sad day for a lot of people tomorrow, including his family. They're obviously very private, but yeah, obviously he leaves behind a son, Bear.
Yeah, it was really sad. Such a young guy, and still no real clarity about exactly what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
On to happier news.
Yes.
Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau confirm their dating rumours. We've seen the images. This is the hot couple that everybody's talking about at the moment.
It is indeed, and I love a random celebrity couple. I live for it in the showbiz world, and I do think what a strange combination, but it kind of works. So she is obviously she's just done a tour, and she was on stage, and one of my colleagues was there on Monday night at the O2, and she got 2 guys on stage, and one of them said, "I heard you were single," and she said, "Well, you should have asked me 48 hours ago." Now, around that same time, obviously, we've seen those yacht images emerge of Justin, former obviously obviously Canadian Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, with his top off. Him and Katie are in an embrace, having a very nice moment. And yeah, she said during the gig, she made various references to her love life, including, "No wonder I fall for Englishmen all the time, but not anymore." And we've been told that, you know, they haven't been able to spend a lot of time together recently. She's very busy. I'm sure he's very busy. But he said that he can't believe someone as glam as Katie would fall for him. And she's flattered that such a respected politician wants to date her. So yeah, maybe we'll see more of them together. I mean, they are the hot topic of conversation right now, as far as...
It's just because it's so unlikely, isn't it? It's just so unlikely. But good on them. I mean, I hope they're happy. Someone who doesn't seem to be very happy is Mick Hucknall. I watched this clip and he seems really grumpy about it. It's Simply Red, of course, but he's the only existing original member of the new Simply Red. But mind you, who needs anybody else but Mick Hucknall? But he stopped the show to shout at a over-enthusiastic ticket holder.
He did, and you know, it's really split opinion because this ticket holder's obviously gone to Simply Red the gig. He's gone to the gig, the 40th anniversary tour, in Wembley, and Mick is just heard saying to him, "Shut it," and he points at the person in the crowd, and then he shouts, "Sock in it! I'm sick of hearing it." So everyone in the crowd was obviously like, you know, what's going on? But he then addressed the rest of the audience. He said, you know, he apologized for the outburst, and he said, "I'm sorry about that, but I can't concentrate because he's yelling so loud. You've come to hear me sing, not him, with the greatest respect." The fan who recorded the moment said that Mick was talking about the next song that he was going to sing when the guy in the crowd was shouting, and it distracted Mick and he was struggling to concentrate. But I think that what they're saying is this was a very, very, very excited member of the public who'd obviously bought a ticket for the front row, so he wanted to get as close as possible. And they're saying, imagine paying all that money just to get embarrassed by him in the crowd for being excited. But I think I'm on Mick's side in this, because I do think, like, you know, sing along to the songs, go for it, enjoy yourself. But there's the difference between that and then yelling consistently.
Yeah, he was yelling out the lyrics, I think, to the song that Mick was talking about. So he was obviously just overexcited and showing off. Yeah, I mean, but once the embarrassment has died down, that's a story, isn't it? Mick Hucknall shouted at me. I mean, it'll end up everybody being happy in the end.
Exactly.
Are we happy, though, that they're looking like they're bringing back the In-Betweeners?
Yes.
I think that was of its time.
Well, there could be that, and you never know how when they bring things back like the In-Betweeners, it's always a bit of a risk and a gamble, isn't it? Because it was so big when it was on our screens. It was 2008 to 2010, so iconic. But then you worry almost, because this happens, doesn't it, when they reboot things and they bring things back and it's never as good as the original. Sex and the City, for example, they've just done...
that was a disaster.
And it was a disaster, wasn't it? So,
Awful.
I mean, fingers crossed it all goes well. All four stars of the In-Betweeners are keen to reunite for this. Ian Morris and Damon Beasley, they're the creators, and they've said it's incredibly exciting to be plotting more adventures for our four favourite friends. They've struck a deal with a production giant, Banijay UK, and they are delighted, apparently, about the conversations that they're having. And the company said that the deal unlocks the rights and potential to bring the In-Betweeners back for new audiences across a range of platforms. That includes...
But they're not going to bring them back as teenagers, are they? Is that the plan?
I have no idea, but I hope not, because that just...
Oh, that would be ridiculous. And also, it only worked because they were teenagers. So if they bring them back as adults, that doesn't work. And if they bring them back as teenagers, everyone's going to be going, "Are you joking?" What, you know?
I know. But that's the thing. I think it's one of those where we've got to give it a go.
All right.
But my hopes aren't high. We'll see.
Mine are not. My expectations are very low. Are you enjoying Celebrity Traitors?
Oh, am I? I love it. I've just been watching it this evening.
Don't give me any, because I obviously haven't seen it this evening.
Oh, no spoilers.
No spoilers. But the celebrities, I mean, I think that's a decent amount of money that they're getting paid.
Yeah, £40,000 they're being paid. So
each. So there's been no bartering. There's been no... Stephen Fry's not getting more than, you know, okay.
No, it's a flat fee, which I think... A flat rate, rather. And I think it's... It's all of them. So basically, you know, this is how much they're getting paid. With the civilian show, the contestants get their expenses covered, which I think is it'll be around £100 a
£100 a day, I read, yeah.
Which, you know, and it's very, very different for the All-Stars. We knew that, you know, obviously they're celebrities, they're going to get paid a little bit more, but they're £40,000 each. So obviously this is a stark contrast when you've got things like the ITV shows like I'm a Celeb, Celeb Big Brother. The stars negotiate the money that they're going to get, and often there'll be bigger stars being paid more, like the Stephen Frys, the Jonathan Rosses.
Yeah.
But they're booked into an £80 a night Courtyard by Marriott hotel. So that's not far from where the castle where it's filmed. So they just stay in the same place that the contestants on the regular Traitors stay in. But yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, none of them are doing it for the money though, are they? They're doing it because it's a really fun game. This is going to take over from I'm a Celebrity. I'm absolutely sure of it.
Well, yeah, it's a brilliant show, isn't it? It gets you hooked, that's for sure.
Yeah, I watched the first one, haven't watched the others because I thought it's just going to be the same thing. But I'm watching the Celebrity one because I particularly am totally in love with Stephen Fry. I want him to be my dad. Or my granddad, I don't care which.
And Alan Carr as a traitor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's a minx in this, isn't he? Lottie, listen, if I don't speak to you again, good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you so much,
love
Petrie.
you dearly, and I hopefully see you soon.
Thank you, Petrie. Have a good night.
Take care. Bye. Lottie Hume, senior reporter at The Sun, just about to go off on maternity leave. Quick break. Back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie with you, coming up at the top of the hour, Phil Dave will be joining us to go through the newspapers for Thursday. But before all of that, let's head to space. And Andy Lound, our space expert. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Petrie.
How are you
I can
doing?
understand Mick Hucknall's fan, because coming on here, I get overexcited sometimes as well.
Oh, do you? You're a Petrie Hosken fan. As long as you don't start singing at me, we will be all right. We will be all right.
I can't sing.
Neither can I. SpaceX launches a giant Starship rocket for the Moon and Mars on the 11th test flight.
Yeah, it was a fantastic test flight. It was. Yeah, Starship Flight 11 test, fantastic launch, because we had several failures, but Flight 10 was very successful. Flight 11 upgraded a few little bits again and did a test flight. This was the last flight of what's called Block 2, if you like, Mark 2 of the rocket, where they test loads of things out. They were able to do everything bang on, perfect launch, perfect separation of what's called the hot shield. There's a special heat shield which, when the two stages separate, instead of it separating quietly and then firing the engine, they fire their engine directly. And that bit of shielding there, the Russians have always been into this. NASA didn't used to do that. They used to do something different, and it meant having extra thrusters on it. However, they do that, and that shield separated beautifully as well, so that was quite a nice effect. The main body, the booster, then came back and landed into the ocean, which was deliberately to throw it away. The main piece then flew up, suborbital flight, engine was switched off, switched the engine back on again to test it could be re-switched on in space, bang on, launched some dummy satellites, bang on, then brought it into the atmosphere, a new type of re-entry to test a new re-entry system, absolutely bang on. I mean, it was a fantastic, I mean, to be quite honest, these kind of launches are better than sex. Basically because they last longer, I think, is the reason why.
But he's had a few problems, hasn't he, with launches recently?
Well, yeah, I mean, the point was they are test launches, and the idea is you have what's Block 1, which is Mark 1, and you do those. Then you upgrade to Mark 2, Block 2, as it's always called in rocketry, and you're trying lots of things out, you're taking things off, you're putting things on, you're seeing what goes wrong. And they've been going wrong, which is fine, but then you've had two fantastically successful launches, which means, of course, the learning experience has been successful. What they've learned now goes into Block 3, which will be launched in the new year. The third generation is actually slightly taller, quite remarkable. It's about 408 feet tall. That's all. Phenomenal rocket. And that will be having lots of modifications on it. There's better engines on it. There's better fuel pumping systems on it. The tiles, the heat shield tiles are better. You see these great flaps which come out. There's 4 of them. There's only going to be 3 of them, but they're larger on the new vehicle. So through their experience, they've modified that as well. And the new version, when it is launched, that's the one that you're going to see putting possibly people into space. There's also going to be docking adapters on the new one because they're going to be able to dock the spacecraft so it can be refueled. So you're going to see lots of changes for the new vehicle when it comes out, all based on the experience they've had from their previous launches. So it's going to be an incredibly exciting year coming up when they do this, because they're then in the new vehicle, they're going to do the typical go into orbit, actually go orbital flight, do the testing for the refueling systems, and this is all preparations, of course, for sending people to the moon in 2027. And of course, then there's going to be the 4th grade. So there's going to be Block 4. Block 4 is bigger still, and the Block 4 is the vehicle that, of course, will be taking people to taking equipment and people hopefully to Mars. Block 4 will be the vehicle that, what you might say, will be the standard vehicle to be used to travel and explore the solar system.
Wow.
But the launch on Monday was so good, and it's the second one which has been a bang-on success. They've got it right. They know where they're going now. So now we're getting into the real meaty part where we're going to explore the universe. And
how much do these test flights cost?
Oh, well, they cost multiple millions of dollars to do it, because it's throwaway. But the new generation, of course, the whole point is they're not going to be throwaway, because both the Starship and the booster are fully reusable. That's the whole point of the design.
Wow.
So you'll actually get to do more. In fact, the booster on this one, which was thrown away this time, that was actually used before. So actually they've used that on more than one occasion. But Block 3 will be a constant reusable system where you bring both vehicles back. You remember the chopsticks where they brought
yeah, that's a remarkable bit of technology.
That's going to be pretty standard for the next one, for they keep doing it. These were throwaway because of the engineering tests they were doing on it, deliberately to throw it away because they were going to really push it too hard to do that.
And when you say throw away, does that just stay floating in the...
It sinks. It sinks. Yeah, it sinks into the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, so it comes back in and then just sinks?
Yeah, that's all they wanted to do with it, because they got all the engineering data they needed from it. It all worked perfectly, so they don't need to recover anything to look at what went wrong. It worked. Everything worked as it said on the tin. So they're very happy with that. And of course, they'll be mass producing these, and that's the whole beauty of it. So they could get up to new launches a month when things get going, and the new generation will be able to put heavy payloads into space, send equipment to Mars, send equipment to the moon. It's really well on track now. It's well.
And how many people can a rocket like this hold?
Well, the Block 4, once it has the human section built on the top, could carry 100 people.
Wow.
Yeah, we're talking about something really ridiculous here.
That's big. That's way more than I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, I mean, what you're looking at probably initially, it'll be just full of equipment, because there's going to be different modules to it. You've got the human crew one, which goes onto the top, but other ones will not have that. They will be just cargo equipment, which will go there, so it's interchangeable. And if you remember the old 1950s films where you had these great cylindrical rockets where you had different decks on it, that's exactly how the new ones have, which will include a medical deck and things like that. So you could send a whole survey team to the planet Mars to do actually the work with all their equipment, which obviously is a lot more practical than what we've done in the past, because you're just sort of doing scouting missions. These are proper full excursion missions which can go there. So you can bring engineers, scientists, medical personnel, geologists, physicists. You can bring a full team with all their equipment to do the work on a planet and do the research that you really need to do. And this is going to give us the opportunity to do that for the very first time. That's
extraordinary, isn't it? Just before I let you go, Uranus and Neptune may not be ice giants. What?
Yeah, this is a paper which is about to be published, which is really, really interesting. We've always called Uranus and Neptune ice giants because so far out in the solar system, it's thought that only it was things like ammonia and water ice sort of froze and came together to form the interiors of these planets. But Uranus and Neptune are a bit peculiar because they don't always match the models that we want. And an interesting research program has been done where they did some other ideas and threw them into the mix, and they found that they could actually be contain more rocky material in their interiors than was expected. We still have to try and understand why and how rocky material forms in the far out of the solar system. However, I don't think they need to go too far, because a lot of these planets formed closer into the sun in the original days and migrated out, so that could be the solution to this. But we need more missions to go to these planets to have a look, because we've only had Voyager 2 at both those planets, and we really need something more sophisticated to get to Uranus and Neptune, to orbit them and to do some proper research to study the interiors of these worlds. But if it's true and they are more rockier inside than ice that we expected, it means we have to rethink the way these worlds form.
Yeah. I mean, and how far away are they, just to get a measure of that? How long would it take?
Yes, I'm afraid you're looking at a couple of billion kilometres away.
Right.
So you're actually looking at a situation where it takes many years to get a spacecraft there. But again, we're now throwing ourselves back into the realms of SpaceX. If they get their systems really working, you've got super booster. Why not put a very small or two small probes on top of a super booster, and suddenly you've got a smaller mass being given a lot more impetus to go out there, but though you still have the problem of slowing them down when they get there. So there's always this trade-off. But yes, it's going to be many years before we get anything there, and we really could do with an orbiter around both those planets to do some serious studies and atmospheric probes. But I am biased because planetary science is my subject.
Yeah, but it's fascinating. It really is, and so are you, Andy. Thank you very much indeed for that. Right, coming up, we have Phil Dave, who's going to go through the papers.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good Thursday morning to you. It is indeed Thursday, and it is the 16th of October. And joining me to discuss today's newspapers is Phil Dave, broadcaster and editor-at-large. How are you?
Greetings, broadcaster and editor-at-large.
Well, I just thought I'd give you a little bit of a promotion there. Why not?
That's what I was going to say. Very kind. And to be honest with you, the only large bit is the way I haven't stopped eating in the last couple of days. But anyway,
What's
thank you
happened
for
to your
saying
voice? Why?
My voice?
Yeah. Have you got a cold or something?
I don't think so. I mean, I might be a bit tired. Maybe I'm a bit croaky from tiredness. Sorry.
Oh, maybe that is it. Maybe.
Have a drink of water and see if that improves. Sorry, hold the fort.
I just thought you did sound a bit like you got a cold or something.
I'm sorry. No, I don't think so. I hope I haven't.
No, yeah. Mind you, I haven't seen you, so mind you, I do hope you're.
I might blame Tom Clayton actually, because one of our intrepid newsreaders, he's so croaky at the the moment. And
I know. We
just
had a long chat with him about DIY. Actually.
Oh, so I blame him. Maybe I've caught something.
Yeah. Oh, don't blame Tom. He's lovely. Message here from your friend Gary. It says,
"Oh, good Lord."
When I heard Phil Dave was coming on, I almost choked on my chocolate finger. And then he said, "Send my regards to the stud muffin."
I just don't know what he sees when he tunes in, but it's very flattering. And greetings, Gary. Thank you.
Gary, Gary's lovely. Right, so let's have a look at the papers. I've picked the USA Today because all the other papers were dealing with hostage return and all of that, and we've talked about that. But this is interesting. A special educational system in danger in America. Families and educators across the country were plunged into a state of uncertainty after the Federal Education Department laid off practically every staffer in the government's special education division. Nearly the entire Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services, including the Office of Special Education Programs, was let go. That's got to be really worrying. I mean, we know that they were getting rid of the Education Department and sending all of the control of schools to the states. But whenever I think about special educational needs, I always think of that as being outside of the Education Department and incredibly vital.
Well, you'd like to think it's incredibly vital. Otherwise, what's it there for in the first place, right? So this is where I suppose that there is some sort of happy medium that needs to be found. Either you've got special education is sort of overprescribed, if you like. I'm not saying it is. Or you've got a system that sort of some people look at as being irrelevant. And I don't think that either side is right. There's got to be a happy medium. There has to be a reason why special educational needs exist in the first place. And if there is an argument to be had to say that maybe they need to be reanalyzed and redistributed, then fine. But I can't imagine that binning them off altogether makes sense either.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that certainly in this country we know that a lot of parents will seek special educational needs, that tick in that box to get that support for their children, or extra exam time, or things like that. And there is no doubt that it is overprescribed in the UK. So you know, and it does need looking at. But I don't know how you do that without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because...
I mean, all I do know is that the latest from USA Today, this obviously doesn't necessarily reflect on the front page of it, is that a federal judge actually did temporarily pause the US Department of Education's decision to lay off nearly everyone in the special education division. So it's not necessarily happening yet. So it is obviously, it's going to be yet another one of Trump versus the state, or versus
another
the Fed.
Another court case.
Versus the Fed, which he's never had to do before. But
yeah, it's just an interesting one. But when people who don't know families that need special educational needs probably thinks that it's all just fake, or they don't really need it anyway, or whatever. So I just worry when something sort of blanket got rid of like that, because
I agree, but I will say one thing that has definitely not helped the cause is the way that over the years, both in America and in this country, the way that people have been allowed to take advantage of the special education system. And unfortunately, what happens with that is, it wrongly, everyone is tarnished, but of course by allowing it to happen, you sort of water down the validity
of other people,
such services.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with disability welfare, right? You know,
exactly.
We're
totally
signing up 5,000 a day or something on disability, you know, and that is going to implode. And then it takes with it those genuine recipients who desperately, desperately need it. And it's just that thing, isn't it, that eventually it just implodes. Everything just falls apart. Let's take a look at the Sun newspaper. And I was saying to Lottie Hume a little while ago, I cannot believe that tomorrow, it is a year ago. It's today, sorry, yes, it's today, of course it is, it's the 16th. So a year ago today that Liam Payne died.
Well, I can't believe it's a year ago today that you and I were on air breaking the news.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you were with me. That's right.
Yeah, I know. So I should be. I suppose I should be honoured to be here on the first anniversary. But yeah. Look, it was obviously quite shocking news. I don't want to state the obvious here. What can you say? No one's going to relish in the news such as horrible news as that. But at the same time, they now are sort of saying that they could have saved Liam, is the headline. And I really hate, no offence to our colleagues at The Sun, retrospective,
me too,
this could have happened, or this should have happened, or if this happened,
because
then this...
it didn't, and he died.
It didn't, and he's dead, and I'm sorry, but, you know, can we just sort of like maybe not drag this all up for his family, who I'm sure find it very painful still. There are still plenty of fanatics who would have loved him and his career, and I guess that this would be very upsetting for them as well. Again, this is not so much about digging at our colleagues at The Sun. I'm just saying, in general, I just don't see a point to things like this.
No, it's I always think the same thing when I see a Madeleine McCann front page.
Oh, give me strength.
You know what?
Honestly.
Of someone saying that they're related, or they are her, or I mean, it must be heartbreaking for the family. It's just like, just stop it now. It's too much. But I'm 100% with you on this. Look, this is a legitimate news story, but I do agree with you that it's kind of, for me, it's like, well, if I was his mum, that would just be the worst thing that you could read.
No one wants to hear that. No one who loved him wants to hear he could have been saved. Well, he wasn't saved, so thanks. You know, well done.
Yeah.
Springs to mind. If someone could have been saved, then that's shameful.
Yeah. But it's just heartbreaking, isn't it? It's horrible.
Yeah, look, it's a horrible thought. You know, I think there's nothing about it that is pleasant. I said this a year ago, I'll say it again. I do find there's something seriously unpalatable the way that we allow younger people to become famous before clearly, possibly, they're able to handle it. And this is just yet another example of how those sorts of situations wind up. I'm not saying that potentially that he would still necessarily sort of be alive if he hadn't been famous again, because otherwise I'd just be doing the same thing, what-if-ery, and no one likes that. But I still find it frustrating that lessons never seem to be learned.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's part of a devastating alarm, isn't he, of young people that have died before their time.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why the I know it sounds a bit crass, but it's true. There's a reason why Club 27 exists. Is there's a number of people who have either lost their lives by the age of 27 or before it, and it's normally due to the pressures associated with fame.
Yeah, really it is. I mean, talking of people as well who died early, the book that the Palace will be dreading comes out. That is Ghislaine Maxwell's book. And it says on the front page of The Sun, the book that shames Andrew. and this line from the book, what Ghislaine Maxwell told Virginia Giuffre, "You did well. The prince had fun."
Lovely. How utterly delightful.
Sorry, it's Virginia's book, not Ghislaine's book. That's what I mean.
How utterly delightful that anyone would think that that's an appropriate way to speak to someone who's been used and abused in that fashion.
Unbelievable. But the book is going to be, I think that'll finally finish off both Fergie and Andy in terms of any sort of royal.
Well, I hate to say it. What more can be done? I mean, I already think the revelations that have come out about both of them are pretty abhorrent now. So, I mean, what more do we need to hear before we have to say, maybe it's time that you two just stepped out of public life?
Completely out. I would take their titles off them, to be honest with you.
I have to say that I was in two minds and quite disappointed to hear of any association that Fergie might have had with any of this malarkey, because I was this is going to sound a little bit name droppy, and I'm very sorry, but there was a charity launch that I was privy to going to. It was very exciting. It was about an animal charity that specifically looked after retired service animals. And I don't need to sort of necessarily go too much into that because I don't want to tarnish a charity with anything. But she was there at the launch of it, and she got up and spoke very passionately about the way that animals are so often overlooked when it comes to service life, and we don't seem to appreciate them enough. And so as a result of it, that she went very high in my estimation for that, because I thought actually it's normally the upper echelons that are associated with possibly taking animals a bit for granted, with things like fox hunting and horse riding and all of this malarkey. I personally don't like horse riding. I actually think that, what animal wants to have a person sat on their back for goodness knows how many hours? That's just my personal belief. But yet to hear someone from that class of society talk in that way, I found it very hopeful and inspiring. But now to sort of see all of this come out of the woodwork, it's very, very disappointing to say the least. And as for Prince Andrew, I mean, I'm sorry, but what irritates me more than anything about any involvement he's had is the way that he seems to be treating everyone with, well, just such contempt, as if everyone is so stupid around him that we can't see through his lies.
Yeah, but also it's a sense of entitlement you get from him. Like, what have I done wrong? Stop attacking me. I haven't. Do you know what I mean? It's that more than anything else. It's just that sense of entitlement. That clearly he was, he's a prince, so he's been nothing but entitled.
I wonder what you were going to call him there, but yes.
Yeah, literally entitled. But it's just that's what annoys me about him. He thinks he can just go about life normally because, what? But he can't.
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't see anything wrong, which is terrible.
Which is worrying. Yeah.
Which is terrible.
Or he's innocent. He's always maintained his innocence.
Or it's worse. He's trying to lie his way out of it because he thinks that the great unwashed just won't see the truth. Yeah.
Oh no, I think the great unwashed don't understand him. I mean, how could we possibly? That's where I get it from.
I don't think I want to understand, to be honest.
Although I will again say, for legal reasons, he maintains his innocence.
Look, what can I say? I hope he's innocent, but let's put it this way. What we've seen so far hasn't looked that good. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And to that end, actually, let's look at the Times, because the Times has also gone with this story. Andrew saw sex with me as his birthright, claims Giuffre.
Well, which of course plays into what you were saying about entitlement and just sort of thinking being untouchable. Look, again, if indeed this is all a massive misunderstanding and he is innocent, well then I'd say that's the best possible outcome. But just unfortunately there are too many stories coming out of the woodwork that I don't think match for a coincidence.
I just want to say at this point as well that the woman who brought Prince Andrew down, which has been immortalised in the film Scoop, Sam McAllister, is here on Monday doing the papers. How about that?
Gracious.
How about that?
I'm not worthy. What can I say?
Yeah. So Sam McAllister, she also happens to have been a friend of mine for 20 odd years, but also. So Sam
I now feel like a third-rate paper reviewer. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we've only been mates for, what, 10 years now? I mean, come on. So she's going to be here, and she's a phenomenal woman, and she's going to be doing the papers for us on Monday. Just before we go to the break, Phil, can you ask Phil if we can see Rufus, please?
Who says that?
That's Rachel asking that. And it's not a euphemism for those who are listening on radio. Rufus is a cat. Just so we're...
I can try. He does look quite... I don't know whether or not if it can... who's pressing the buttons on the vision this evening, but if you go full screen, you should be able to possibly see him. There he is in the background there.
Oh, you can just see his ears on your bed. He matches. Oh, you've got a cat that matches your bed and your linen.
No,
and everything.
no, I couldn't possibly have a cat that doesn't match the bed linen.
Bed linen. No, good heavens, that would be just so common.
That wouldn't match. Sorry. I hope that's a clear enough. It's only because he's sort of quite settled and he will start getting very vocal. You know how they say cats are like their owners? He won't shut up either if I wake him. So I'm aware that he might start making a racket. So.
Well, we saw him, so thank you very much indeed. There you go, Rachel. You see, you just ask and you shall receive. A quick break, and Phil and I'll be back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie, and with me Phil Dave, going through the papers for today. Sticking with the Times, Phil, Whitehall data breach gave secrets to the Chinese, and of course the government has published evidence in the collapsed spy case. Government has published witness statements submitted in the now collapsed case against the two men accused of spying for China. That's the latest news. This isn't going to go away, is it?
Something about this stinks, and I'm sorry, but just as we were saying before about with Prince Andrew treating the great British public as idiots, I'm afraid it's exactly the same for the government. The British public are not stupid, and it is very clear that something is very, very wrong in all of this. And if the wonderful politicians who run this country think that any of us are going to shut up and just graciously accept that, having published a few possibly select statements, who knows if they're all of them, I don't know, any more than anyone else does, I'd imagine, but if they are a select few statements that possibly might make us all just blow away, guess again, not going to stop. Yeah. This is a major security threat potentially to our country, and I'm sorry, but the government seemed to be hell-bent on permitting security threats. One of the reasons why I have always been so anti people popping over here on small boats, as I'm sure so many others are as well, is I greatly worry what kind of security threats some people who come over pose. And it's exactly the same with this. If the Chinese pose a threat in whatever capacity to the UK, I want to know about it. I don't want the government to cover it up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the government is obviously just trying to appease China, because now that America isn't as it was, people are more and more turning to China now to be their main suppliers of goods, and so not calling them the enemy, which is why this collapsed, because if you don't have an enemy, then you can't have an enemy spying. That is where this problem lies, is sucking up to the Chinese.
Once again, money reigns supreme, huh?
Always has.
I was going to say, I don't think we should be shocked by this. Look, don't get me wrong, I like money as much as the next person, but at the same time, I just don't see how on earth anyone in Westminster thinks that it is a good idea to put that above any sort of threat that might be posed. And at the end of the day, we shouldn't forget, okay, we might not be now a great manufacturing nation, but we certainly used to be. Is there any reason why we can't possibly look to those glory days and inspire, possibly helping people who are out of work in the process, possibly boosting our economy in the process?
Too expensive. It's cheaper to import, and that's the problem, because we've let the market slip away. To restart it would be phenomenally expensive.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility.
Well, if we want to pay more for stuff, we were just saying how much we like money. If we want to pay more, just basic economics says if we want to...
We're paying more now anyway.
Well...
And not to mention, we always seem to have money for war.
Oh, yeah, we always have money for that. Yeah. And MPs' expenses.
Oh, yes. Mustn't let the poor little MPs suffer.
No, goodness me. But we're going to let the wealthy suffer. I just wonder where Labour think the line is on wealthy, because their idea of wealthy and my idea of wealthy may be completely different. But taxes on the wealthy, not spending cuts, vows Reeves.
What a good idea. Let's scare anyone who's got wealth out of this country, shall we? And then we'll be even poorer. Brilliant. Well done, Rachel Reeves.
Yeah. And if we turn to the Telegraph, another tax story here. Taxes rising faster in Britain than any other G7 country we know.
I was going to say, this is hardly headline-grabbing stuff. You think we realise that?
I mean, I just don't know. I honestly feel I'm at the point where I think, how much do they think they can keep taking from us? You know,
no, I want to know where critical mass is.
Yeah, where
Seriously.
is critical mass? I mean, we've already got a situation at the moment where 28 million people are working to pay the benefits of 28 million people. That sounds to me like we've hit critical mass at this point, right? But if they keep then taxing us, and that's all they do, and it's not just this government, it's all the governments throughout the history. It's just, I know, we'll just tax them more. There has to come a point where it can't be done anymore.
Well, I want to know at what point the great British public turn around and say, I can't do this. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to be homeless just so you can blow our money on all sorts of nonsense the way you're carrying on doing?
Yeah.
I don't see
so there's no
how
spending
it's
cuts.
possible.
No spending cuts, Reeves has said, and we're just going to tax people more. And the thing that worries me is that the likes of Jeremy Corbyn was saying that somebody on 70 grand a year was wealthy. Now, I appreciate that is above...
fooled me.
That's above the minimum, wages, and it's a good wage for a heck of a lot of people. But it doesn't make you wealthy. Wealthy, I imagine people with the big houses in Primrose Hill, right? Or wealthy, I consider to be millionaires. But it's when that bar comes lower and lower and lower, because a lot of people are saying, oh, just tax them, that's fine. But then it always comes lower, doesn't it? And eventually it captures all of us.
You can't possibly, not you, one can't govern a country based on jealousy. This is all it boils down to. They look at people who've got money, they don't see the value in them, and that's no pun intended. They don't see the value in having them here, possibly offering jobs, possibly boosting the economy by spending their money. What do they think is going to happen when they just keep taxing these people into oblivion? They're going to up and leave. They're going to go elsewhere where they're not taxed into the abyss, and they're just going to say, "Bye, Britain. To heck with you."
Well,
Not
Rachel
interested.
Reeves disagrees with you because she says, look, it's been proven they didn't leave the country when we put VAT on school fees. And she said, this is a brilliant country and people want to live here. That was a direct quote from her. I mean, I have no problem with taxing wealth. I genuinely don't, but I think it's the big companies and the banks and those people like the supermarkets who don't pay a living wage, and so we have to top that up as taxpayers with tax credits so that they can keep their profits to give to shareholders. That's where I think if you can afford to pay your shareholders, you can afford to pay your staff, and you shouldn't come, they shouldn't have to come to us, the taxpayer, to top up their wages.
I agree and disagree with that slightly, because the problem with that, of course, is without shareholders, a lot of these companies wouldn't exist at the size they exist in, and wouldn't be able to necessarily offer the number of jobs they offer. So as much as
there's no point having those jobs if we're paying their wages. They might as well be on benefits.
True, but then if those companies don't exist, they'd still be on benefits because they'd be out of work. So it's not necessarily the case. I understand why people think like that, but it's just not as black and white as that.
Well, it should be. If you can afford to,
pay
out massive dividends, then you can afford to pay your staff properly.
But
the market should dictate wages, not some sort of scheme that has been done between, multi-billion-pound companies and governments.
But those dividends are based on, unfortunately, the agreement that very wealthy people are prepared to put money into a company in the first place. And if they don't do that, then that company can't grow to the size it's at to offer the jobs that we're saying that we need to prop up. So it wouldn't work like that anyway. If those companies disappeared, where would all those people work?
But look at what these companies are doing. The likes of the supermarkets getting rid of people on tills, getting rid of, they don't care about the workers. They don't care, they're going to get rid of these people anyway. So those jobs you're talking about that we so desperately need from these companies are disappearing. Amazon, those jobs are disappearing by the day and will disappear further when the drones start flying.
But Amazon is still globally one of the largest employers in the world.
Yes, so. but it is planning to get rid of a lot of human beings and have, one human being out of 20, 30 or 50.
But wouldn't you save on costs if you could on something?
Yes, but I would pass those savings on rather than keep them and become a trillionaire. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, all of this wealth in the hands of a few individual people that doesn't trickle down. I
just find it amazing that it's those who... I'm not saying that you are not wealthy. I'm not wealthy either, but I'm just saying I find it interesting that those who don't possess the wealth that we speak of are the ones who would distribute it in different fashion. I don't know how I'd behave if I was that wealthy. I suspect that money has proven in the past that it goes to people's heads, and I can't guarantee it wouldn't go to mine either.
I wouldn't let it.
I don't know how. I'm not so sure that's.
No, I
how
wouldn't
would you
let
know
you
that?
do that. I mean, because I know that I wouldn't. I know.
No, you just spend it for me, right?
Yeah. No. I would honestly. I would because I don't see the point. And we all end up as compost, right? One way or the other. And you can't take it with you. So I would give a lot of it away. I genuinely 100% would. And I would. You know me.
No, I know. That's just because you're a decent person doesn't mean everyone is. So.
I would end up doing some really good stuff with it, I tell you. Why aren't I a millionaire? Anyway.
I just live a champagne lifestyle on a water budget.
Yeah. Well, I just know that I'd be a really good millionaire or billionaire or trillionaire. It's just not fair. Phil, we're going to take a quick break. Back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie, and with me Phil Dave. Looking at the iPaper now, Phil, I mean, yeah, am I surprised?
Where do we start?
I mean, I am so bored with being proved right, because this leaked memo reveals that Labour plans to slash the affordable homes target.
Oh, good God. No one saw that coming.
No one saw that coming. I mean...
Can't believe it.
They promised these millions of homes, 1.5 million homes or whatever it was.
It's almost like that they promised it just to get into power. Sorry,
Yeah.
just forgive me for being cynical. It's almost like they promised it to get into power and then they realised what nonsense they were talking after they got into power.
Yeah. Basically,
Or worse, they realised what nonsense they were talking before they got into power, but they lied to us to get into power. Possibly, it's just a thought.
I mean, basically what they're trying to do is to encourage developers to just build. And originally there was a target of 35% of those homes that are built by these profit-making machines, these builders, had to be affordable homes. Now, affordable is 80% of the cost of a non-affordable home, which to a lot of people is still not affordable, right? So 80% cost value. A lot of builders don't want to do that because they lose money. And so it looks like they can't get the builders to build the 1.5 million homes that they want building, with 35% of them having to be affordable and them losing out on that money. So now they're going to slash that requirement to these builders to 20%.
Look, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't blame the developers for this, because actually it should be the government who takes on the responsibility.
It should be the government that pays for council homes, not affordable homes. They're not affordable.
I mean, I don't think this country has built council homes for years, but this is the problem. That's exactly what it should be doing. It should be looking to going back to the golden age of building council-owned property. You know, many people still blame Margaret Thatcher for the great sell-off. And as much as I understand why they do, I don't blame her per se for wanting to give people the chance to own their own home. In fact, on the contrary, I've always thought it was a very admirable policy. What I didn't think was admirable is the way that successive governments have never thought to replenish the stock.
And councils took that money and didn't build new homes with it. That was the point as well at the time. They were meant to take that money and plough it back into new stock, and they didn't.
Yeah. No, it's just typical, once again, money over people's well-being. And I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm afraid I'm not.
But this is I mean, even I hate the term affordable homes. I just hate it.
It's not affordable.
No, because at 80% of value, it's not. It doesn't make it affordable. It just makes it a little bit cheaper.
Affordable, quite simply.
The only affordable home is a council home at the moment in terms of rental.
It would only be affordable if someone's wage reflected the rate of the market, the way that it's carrying on at the moment. And there's just no way that that's going to happen anytime soon. No. You know, I think it's quite bonkers to believe that how many years ago someone sort of would earn maybe, or they'd be able to get a mortgage for about 4 or 5 times their salary, and that would be more than enough to cover a home. I don't know one person now who's on an average salary who could get 4 or 5 times that amount of money, and it would be anywhere near enough to buy a house. No. Nowhere near.
Absolutely not.
I mean, I can't even begin to tell you, well, you know, because you've known me long enough, but I can't even begin to tell people how long it took me to save up to get anywhere near to be able to afford my nice little 1-bed that I've got here. But this is, it was at the age of 36, and I had been lucky enough to live at home for years and save up. Save and save and save, and that was the only way I could do it. If I'd have paid rent, forget it. I would never have been able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, my son and his girlfriend are planning to move in with me at some point.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame them. I'm not so sure how well, I don't know where they go, but yeah.
Oh, he's already established that.
You're going to put them in the studio in the back?
It's where I go. I'll be the one moving.
Oh, you'll be the one moving.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I see. I
yeah,
see.
they'll
Okay.
take my room, and I'll have the spare room.
Ah, okay. I don't know if that was the plan when he refurbished the flat in the first
That
place.
wasn't the plan. No, it really wasn't. But like you're saying, there's no way that they can afford to save and spend the amount of money that they're paying on rent. So something's got to give, and it will be my sanity. But there you go. So there you go. They're going to slash.
Wasn't aware you retained any of that.
Not much. They're going to slash the requirement so that they can encourage those builders. They are going to miss this target anyway. I put money on it if I had any.
I mean, actually, do you know what? I know we don't have time to get into it, but actually, that home building in this country is so unbelievably scandalous. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you the problems that I'm currently going through where I'm at is nothing even to do with affordable housing. I mean, I think there's an element of it because you see the problem with the affordable housing targets is it puts almost an element more pressure on the developers to make up the loss of that money elsewhere. And without any proof, I believe where a lot of that money is made up for is in the service charge, because some of these developers, what they do is they retain the freehold. Yeah. They retain the freehold of the buildings. Subsequently, they are directing it and are in charge of who the management companies are. They then have potential shoo-ins with the management company as agreements, if you like, gentlemen's agreements, if you will. I don't know what you call them this day and age. You probably can't call it gentlemen's agreement anymore, but whatever, you know what I mean. They have an agreement potentially in place with the management company that sees that they earn commission on various charges that they do put on the residents. And there is literally nothing in law to stop them charging whatever they want to charge for service charge.
I was talking about this yesterday, funnily enough.
Isn't that ridiculous?
A whole interview on it. It's disgusting. It really is absolutely disgusting. And but you're right. This is how these developers retain ownership, if you like, of properties, and then they charge if you want to extend your lease as well. That's another form of profit for them.
Well, unfortunately, that's starting to dwindle now because actually most leases are offered on 999-year term. But don't get me wrong, if they should abolish leasehold, it just shouldn't even be a thing.
No, there should be a community-led thing, shouldn't it? It should be within the building that it is.
It should be share of freehold. Yeah. That's all it should be. But I have to say that, and I did sort of think about whether or not I wanted to make a point of saying this, but this is just an example of how scandalous it is. My service charge for last year was £900 for the year, which is already a fair amount of money. And this year I got the bill, it's £2,100. So
what's the justification for that?
They put down a load of, well, I believe made up figures allegedly, but of course there's not anyone could identify the developer or identify where I live or anything like that. But let me just say that to cover my back, allegedly they have put their justification in writing, but there are many residents here, including myself, who are highly suspicious of what they have done.
Wow, that is a massive leap, right? That's
and where on earth does it stop? Yeah. You know, where if it's now if it's an additional £1,200 or whatever it is from last year, what's it going to be like next year?
Yeah.
And what chance do I have of selling somewhere like this in future with service charges at that price? And the answer is I can't. Yeah. No one would buy it knowing the service charge at that amount of money. So I'm stuck.
Because that's on top of the mortgage. So
absolutely.
That is. Oh my God.
And they don't let you pay it monthly.
Yeah.
They don't let you pay it monthly.
Oh.
No.
You have to pay it in one swoop.
You can. I think the most generous they've been is letting you do it over 3 months, but even then, that's still an awful lot. So they expect it. They expect it in one go. And of course, this is the best bit.
You've got to start charging Rufus some rent.
Yeah, I know.
He's living there rent-free.
You pay for your cat food. Yeah. Right. But to top it all off, as if that isn't outrageous enough, if you falter on the payment, they then have the ability to. They don't have the ability to bring in debt collectors, but they do have the powers to go to the mortgage company to put it on that. And mortgage companies will then see it as a failed payment. They see that as a failed payment. It goes as a black mark against your credit score, affecting your future ability to get credit. So honestly, there is such a national scandal at play here. This is not just me.
No,
I've
it's
done
not.
research
It's not.
into it. I know that it is countrywide and it is unbelievable. And I believe it is born out of government targets, which of course was the original story, was government targets for affordable housing, where the developers are losing too much money and they're trying to make up for it by getting that money back through other means, through the, if you like, the private residents.
It's extraordinary. But also the other scandal is with this affordable homes is that they don't have to build them on the same site. So they can, certainly around in Hammersmith, there was this requirement for affordable percentages. And so they built these homes at 100% value, and the 35% they built out in Croydon somewhere. Or you know, somewhere where it's cheaper land.
Pardon?
You know, the cheaper land or cheaper development costs. So they don't. I always thought that it had to be within the building.
I thought that as well.
No,
I assumed it had to be within the development.
No, they can build them
I
wherever
knew that
they
there
like.
was this. I knew this massive hoo-ha about the access, because a lot of people getting very upset for what they were dubbing like paupers entrance.
Yeah.
Where they weren't allowed to share the same access that
that was in a case in centre of town, wasn't it? But no, they don't have to, because I was talking to a developer about some drinks thing, and he said, oh no, we don't have to build it in the same place, we can build it
okay, every day's a school day. I had no idea.
Yeah, we can build it on cheaper land, and of course that's what they do. Let's take a quick break, a minute early, but before we turn on to the next paper. Phil and I'll be back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you till the top of the hour, and with me is Phil Dave. A couple of messages about Rufus. Oh my God, he's gorgeous. Please tell Phil, thank you. Rufus looks like Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Thank God he doesn't talk, but yes, he does.
That's from Rachel, and another gorgeous black cat there from Kaz. So
thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I'm sure that of all of the times I have appeared on your show and it's showing Rufus that generates the messages, I'm very flattered.
Look, you know, people want to see Humphrey more than they want to see me. So I'm used to that now. I don't blame them either, because he is really cute.
I actually think that time when you were off and I covered for you, they were probably quite cross that Humphrey wasn't given the chance to cover. To be honest.
Humphrey is he's the man. He's the dude.
Yeah.
And he is so naughty, but we'll get into that another time. In a funny, brilliant way, but God, he's so cheeky. I'll just quickly tell you this. He's figured out, right, that when he goes out for a wee, that I go, oh, good boy, Humphrey, and give him a treat, right? So what has he figured out? He's figured out that if he goes out and does a little wee and then comes back and gets a treat and then goes out again and does another little... So instead of doing one wee, he'll do 6 and get 6 treats. I mean, that is clever.
Brilliant.
And I can't not give him a treat, right? Because he's done a wee outside. So I'm going, oh, well done. And he's like, yeah, sucker. 6 times.
To be fair, there are some dogs, because I remember Carlo was like this, that there are some dogs that do that, and it's almost like they are preserving their ability. I'm going to try and put this very delicately. They're trying to preserve their ability to mark their territory.
Oh, yeah, no, this is what I'm saying. These are the kind of marking territory wees that they do when they're out for a walk. But he's doing it in the garden.
In the garden, yeah.
Because he knows, and he's all coming back, all floppy-eared, going, hey, give me a treat. He's got me absolutely, and I know, I'm looking at him going, I know what you're doing, but I have to give him a treat. So yeah, that's how clever naughty he is. Keeps me on my toes.
Rufus doesn't expect a treat. He just tells me what he wants, and if I don't get it, he just won't stop meowing. So it's very simple. Oh
yeah, no, they talk. Let's have a look at the Metro for today. This is an extraordinary story. I read about this earlier on today. This is a woman in southern Poland who was last seen when she was 15 years old. And has been discovered 27 years later, locked in her parents' apartment. When she disappeared, the parents said that she'd been kidnapped and never to be seen again until the police were called to a disturbance and discovered a very emaciated woman of now 42 years old. With some very severe issues with her legs. She was, could have died. And then they called an ambulance and sent her to hospital. So, I mean, you just never know what's going on in people's homes, do you?
You don't, but it also never ceases to amaze me how we just keep hearing throughout time these cases. Straight away you think of the Josef Fretzel case or what have you, and then not to mention the Shannon Matthews case as well. It's just these things keep recurring, and I don't understand how. Poland is not a backward country, and what were the police doing? Did they not even think to go into the parents' house at any stage and check and ask? And I just don't get it. I mean, look, it is very rich. A 15-year-old
just disappears and nobody questions it.
I know this is very rich for me because of course I'm not the one who's in the police force in Poland doing this sort of check and with sort of work. I have respect for police force by and large. Don't get me wrong. I believe that there are quite a few flaws there, certainly in the Metropolitan and some of the other British police forces. But let's not dwell on that. My point being is that it just strikes me as baffling that the most basic and most obvious thing to do when someone says, my child has disappeared, please help, would you not go and search that property for clues?
You would think so.
I mean, I assume they did.
We don't even know if they just told the neighbours that, but I don't know if it was ever reported to the police. But the interesting fact in this story is, after she came out of hospital, she was returned to her parents' apartment.
Oh, for goodness sake. So, but how? But maybe it's almost like Stockholm, maybe she actually wouldn't know any other way of life and wouldn't want to live any other way of life.
Exactly. The case caused shockwaves in Poland. And there are concerns that her alleged kidnapping, were never reported or investigated. And astonishingly, police revealed that Mirella was returned to her parents after treatment in hospital. Extraordinary, absolutely. And she's obviously emaciated. She's stuck in, I don't know.
But then it also begs the question, and I know this is obviously a lot of speculation, don't know the ins and outs of this, far from it, but what kind of parent does that to a child?
They probably thought they were protecting her, keeping her safe from the outside world, and of course then creating a form of hell for her that she doesn't know any different from.
I don't get it. I mean, maybe I'm very lucky. Maybe I've never been exposed to people who would be that
selfish and cruel.
Well, selfish might be one way. I was going to use the word psychotic, to be honest with you, but I don't know.
It's not well people. I mean, I'm just guessing. I'm just trying to guess. But anyway, let's move on to the Mirror. Again, what a shocker. £145 million owed, not a penny paid back. There was a deadline yesterday at 4:30, I think, in the afternoon, where Michelle Mone, or the company that was associated with Michelle Mone and her husband, were given this deadline to pay back £145 million. Nothing has been paid back. The company itself doesn't have £145 million and is likely to close in bankruptcy.
Well, I mean, there will be the end of the tale. If the company doesn't have the money,
if it's limited,
then legally they can't pursue any other means of debt recovery.
No.
Because if a company's declared bankrupt, that's it, game over. So it's not a complete shock, but at the same time, I very much hope that Michelle Mone and her family and other beneficiaries of this money will sleep at night.
I hope they don't.
I doubt it.
And I think because you can't sack somebody from the House of Lords because she's a baroness. But I think she's already said that she wouldn't go back to the House of Lords anyway. And she shouldn't hold that title, should she? I mean, it's an absolute outrage.
You know what I find staggering, though, is that there are still people out there who believe that the system we've got now with the Lords and nominated peerage is better than inherited peers. When Tony Blair abolished the last remaining inherited Lords, sort of the hereditary Lords is the word I'm looking for.
They just put their cronies in, hence this one.
They've just instead filled it with friends who appear to have, I don't believe it's wrong to say corrupt tendencies, but I could be wrong. But I think
they're certainly in it for themselves, aren't they? And they're not there for a sense of duty. Let's put it that way.
No, whereas the hereditary peers were, and they used to actually care about the country that they were brought up to look after. They were guardians of the country.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. But the fact that this money we won't see a penny of this. I mean, the Health Secretary vows to pursue Mone-linked firm for cash, but the last I read, it held only £600,000. Of course, a claim like this would render it bankrupt, and we wouldn't get any, not even the 600, because presumably most of it would go to the taxman. So we're not going to see a penny of it.
I wish I could say I'm surprised, but sadly I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like that, going, what's the point?
But you see, the way I think the law is a donkey is that I don't understand why it is that we don't say, well, okay, actually, it was the government at the time who made a major error of judgment in this. You should be punished. You thought it was a good idea to give your buddies the contract. Come on. What
about the pub landlord that got a contract to provide COVID kit as well? I mean, they were handing them out like sweeties, these contracts.
Maybe I was in the wrong job at the time.
Yeah, we should have been working in that pub. Let's have a look. I'm just trying to figure out which stories to look at. A couple of papers that I've sort of skimmed over. Guardian: budget will raise taxes on wealthy to fix public finances, says Reeves. The financiers sound alarm on standards after collapses expose riskier lending. This is on the front page of the Financial Times. And bank backed by Trump-friendly tech billionaires gets watchdog's green light. The US regulators have approved a bank backed by a group of tech billionaires, which has ties to Donald Trump. What could possibly go wrong with a bunch of tech billionaires?
And again, might I say, what a shock.
That they're going to now have a bank. I mean, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Don't you ever get, I'm not you, but I'm just, doesn't one in general ever get bored of reading corruption and deceit?
I honestly feel
I'm so fed up of it.
It drives me completely berserk. And I don't know if did you see the front cover of the Time magazine, just really quickly, of Donald Trump?
I can't say that I have, but I shall look it up.
It's very funny. Trump was not impressed by the photograph. It is a photograph from underneath his chins, and it looks up like that, and you can't see his hair, and he's livid that you can't see his hair. But
No.
he did say something very funny. He said they
Can't see my hair either. He'll be over it. He'll be all right.
Oh, you know what he's like with his image, though. But he did say they appear to have put a crown on my head. Not a very big crown, but they have put a crown on my head.
I mean, I have to be honest.
But can I just say, if you're missing the punchline, the crown is the letter M in time.
Ah, oops. Awkward.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't completely despise Trump at the moment based on what he's potentially managed to achieve in the Middle East. I think there's got to be credit where it's due. But at the same time, it's amazing how much other stuff does let him down.
And that's what the Nobel body said as well. Phil,